My name is Stanislaw Robert Liberta with AV Ultra, and today we are going to be taking a look at the sphere replicator in Element 3D. One of the main benefits of using a replicator in Element 3D is to create pretty complex animations without really having to model individual objects in, say, Cinema 4D or a different 3D program and then bring them into After Effects. It's great to be able to just do things in After Effects and fill our composites all within one program without having to jump back and forth. So I've got this little spiky ball I've put together here, and it's animating it across, and you can see how each one is kind of turning in and it's kind of spinning around here, but all of this is just one 3D object that's been replicated to create this ball here. So let's go ahead and get started with this here. I have another comp here, and all I have is a camera and a solid I've named element and a light layer here. And I'm going to go ahead and apply element right to my solid there. And you can see my background I have here. I have a shy layer here. That's my background. I just thought that'd be kind of cool to have as our background scene there. In case you don't know how I did that here, you can actually hide layers and still have them on, but just not physically taking up real estate here on your screen by marking them as shy. So it's this little shy guy here. If you click on his face, he hides behind a wall here, and then you'll just turn on the master shy switch, and that'll hide it there. All right, so let's go back into Element. I'm going to go back into my scene setup like we've been doing, and I'm just going to create a cone here. That's pretty much it as far as to get our little spiky ball. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put on a material on it. I'll put on this shiny kind of metal material, and I'm going to call that good, right? So that's what I've got right now. And so I know that's in my group 1 because it's always group 1 by default, and I'm going to go into my particle replicator. And I'm going to go into my sphere. And as soon as I hit sphere, it's just jumped over a little bit, but nothing has really happened. What is going on right now, though, is there is an invisible sphere shape that is being populated by the number of instances we have of a particular object. So what am I talking about here? Well, if I change this number to, let's say, 10, you can see it's kind of made almost this ball shape. And if I take this and let's make it 100. Well, now we can a little bit more clearly see this shape of this ball. And if I take this and even make it 1,000 here, now we can really start seeing that. And if I get in here really close with my camera, what we're really seeing is we're just seeing the tips and the edges of each one of those. So I'm just going to start scaling this back down here. I'm going to hold on to Shift as I drag here so we can kind of pull that back. And you can kind of see how that's filling in to make this sphere shape. So I'm going to undo that here a couple times, get back to just 100 objects here. And we have our typical XY, so we can move our whole replicator. And before, we were working with our shape scale. We have that here too. So if I scale up this shape, what that's doing is it's taking that invisible ball shape of that replicator and just making it larger. It's kind of like if I hit a XYZ scale and just expanded it. So the larger the scale, the more pulled apart these objects are from each other. So I'm just going to zoom this out with my camera here, and we can see what's happening. If we're across just the center of it, we can see that our shape is pretty flat. But as it curves to the top and the bottom, it wants to curve along with it to fill that shape. So if I start bumping this up now, we can start seeing what's going on there. All right, very cool. And again, if we want to just be on our X or just on our Y, we can do that as well. So we can kind of create a really pointy tunnel, I guess would be one way to think of it, right? We can take that here and then rotate our whole replicator. We can just kind of get inside here. And you can see what we've kind of created here. I'm just going to undo that. What if I wanted to have those objects kind of rotating the way I had before? So I'm going to close my particle replicator here. And I'm going to go into the particle look. And in my particle look, I'm going to go under my particle rotation. And you'll notice I have my rotation here. And this is actually my X rotation per particle, my Y rotation per particle, and my Z rotation per particle. I can even change the random, and you can see things get really kind of chaotic there. I'm going to zoom that in so we can see that a little bit more closely here. If I go to my random, it's going to let each individual particle randomly rotate. So pretty cool. For our purposes, if we just want these to kind of rotate around, that's what we can do here. So I'm going to do this with a quick expression here. If you guys don't know what expressions are, it's kind of like almost like a script, like a math script, where if I ask you to say 1 plus 2, what does that equal? You would immediately tell me 3. That's kind of what we're telling After Effects to do here. So to turn on an expression, I'm just going to go to my stopwatch. I'm going to hold on to Alt option. I'm going to click it. And you'll notice that it turned red here. And in my actual layer, it's giving me a dialog here. It's saying the effect is in element property 71. So that's this right here, right? If it was under position, it would say X or Y or whatever. And what I'm going to do is just do a simple expression of time times, let's say, 60. And now across time, that is going to rotate here, right? I'm also going to do the same exact expression here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this and go to my Z rotation, Alt option, and I'm just going to hit paste. So now they're both rotating here, right? And so that's how we kind of get that corner pull that we have there. Now, in the past, what I've done is I've taken my camera as this stuff's been kind of moving around, and I've been animating the depth of field, so that way we can kind of make this a little bit more exciting than it is normally. So I'm just going to take this, maybe put it down here and get in really tight. And I'm going to change this material here just so that way it's a little bit more eye-catching. I've got the Pro Shaders 2-pack, highly recommended. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. You can actually build a lot of these, but for just click and drag and getting something on the screen that looks pretty darn good, it's very quick. So you can see what I've got here is I've got this kind of rusty, I don't know, like pyramid head kind of material here. And I'm just going to hit OK, and that's going to change all of them here. And I'm also going to bump up a little bit of this light here. So we're going to take this light, make that quite a bit brighter here. And I'm going to add a new light. And I'm just going to add a parallel light. And I'll make this just maybe a tiny bit red. I'll make that a lot brighter and quite a bit darker here. There. And what I want to do is I want to get some really nice tight depth of field. So I'm also going to make these just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go under my particle look, and I'm going to just pull down the size of each particle there, just a little bit. And notice I have random, so I can even turn up this randomness, and what that's going to do is randomize the size. So if this one's, say, 20 pixels, well, this one might be 0 to 20. And depending on how high I drag this is how much variance it could be. So if it's 100% random, that's going to go between 0 and 8.6. And 8.6 is going to be the ceiling. If I take this up to, let's say, 20, 21, that's going to be the ceiling. And if I change this back down to 0, well, they're all 17.6 right now. Right, so just going to drag that down. And I'll make a few more in here. Get it a little tighter. And so I've got this kind of rotating along here. We can get some nice shading that we have happening there. And I'm actually going to change this other light that I've got here. Maybe make this a little bit more blue, just to kind of add some coolness to it, right? So we've got this red coming in through here, and then maybe some of that blue. Let's make that a bit darker. Add a tiny bit of a reddish purple tint to it. And what I want to do is I want to get that really tight depth of field like I've done before. And in the past, what I would do is I would just kind of play around with the camera. So, I'll take my camera here and decide, okay, well, how exactly do I want this to look? And I had to open up my camera settings, go into the depth of field, turn that on, and start cranking this up to get a really narrow depth of field. But I can't really see too well what's going on until it finishes preview, or I have a general idea. But how do I know what's in focus here? In Element 3D, this is something that I found a little while ago that I thought it was amazing. I didn't know why this isn't in more things. But if you're using a higher-end camera, typically you have a focus assist. And what that's going to do is it's going to highlight specifically what's in focus. So if I go to my render settings in Element, and I go to my depth of field, right? We're going to ignore everything else right now. Instead of hitting pixel blur, I'm just going to go to focus indicator. And what this does is it shows me what's going to be in focus from the camera. So right now, this part right here is going to be in focus, while everything else is going to be a little out of focus. But that is going to be the most focused area. And if I start cranking up this aperture here, right, just something stupid and crazy, and I go back to Element and I turn that focus indicator back into a pixel blur. It's going to take just a second to render out here. Well, now we can see what we had there in focus. And again, it was the most red area that was in focus. So a super handy tip to create that really nice depth of field in our compositions here. And so you can see what that's doing there. All right, so that is the Sphere Replicator. My name is Stanislaw Robert Liberta. If you're looking for more After Effects tutorials or training in After Effects, Premiere, Motion, Final Cut, or other programs, please visit my website at StanislawRobertLiberta.com, and I will see you